Hi folks, and welcome back to Fishing with Den. Well, for the last few weeks I've been talking to you about fishing in winter. First of all, it was the video about feeding very small amounts, otherwise you'll feed the fish off because the water's cold, the fish's metabolism has slowed down, they're very lethargic and they don't need as much bait. So I was feeding 2 or 3 pieces of corn, 2 or 3 pellets at a time, and fairly sparingly at that. Now that's fine, but there are a few other things you need to know. The first tip is don't get up early and go fishing on a frosty morning, because all you're going to do is wait for the fish to wake up if they do. Frosts are really bad for fishing. But what I've done, I've arrived here, it's probably just gone 11 o'clock now, and I'll fish until probably about 4 o'clock. That's when the weather's warmed up, hence I've only got 2 or 3 layers of clothes on. But really today this is about tips to help you catch a few more fish by way of tackle and techniques. So let's have a look at the rig, and I'm going to do it on the pole today because I've showed you me catching on the waggler when I did the video on the feed sparingly. I showed you me catching on a tiny little mini feeder which I just produced, and that one showed you how easy it is to feed the fish off. Even putting small amounts of ground bait and pellets into the feeder, that really just killed the swim after 3 or 4 fish. So today I thought we might as well try it on the pole, and this time we're going to feed through the pole pot on the end. Same thing, just 2 or 3 pellets, maybe 2 or 3 bits of corn. I've got some bread which I'm going to use on the punch, and hopefully that's going to provide me some bites. Rig wise, if I can bring this around to show you, I've got, this is 0.4 of a gram float with a pretty fine insert, probably only about 1.5 millimeters. It isn't a homemade one, this is one I bought, can't remember exactly what it is. Carp 2, I think that's a Drennan, 0.4 of a gram, because there's a little bit of a breeze on today, which is good, and there wasn't a frost last night, which is even better, so I'm hoping that this one will do the trick. It's just over 3 feet deep at the moment after the floods. That damaged the overflow down the back there, and it means that the level is actually about a foot lower than normal. So we'll go with the 3 feet. You'll notice I've got a back shot on here, which I'll just move back a fraction more. That's to sink the line between the tip of the pole and the float so it doesn't get dragged out of position. There's the depth. Whoops. 3 feet by the time you get to the tip of the float. It's actually something like 38 inches. So I'm not expecting to catch on the drop. I've got these spread bulk number 8s down here. Main line is 017. I've got a size 16 hook on. It's actually a B711, so that's actually a 15 because they do it in odd sizes, but to all intents and purposes it's the slightly slimmed down version of the B911 because I'm not expecting these fish to be able to go tearing off today. Hook length is 013, and that's pretty much it. We're ready to go. So I'll get some bait on, we'll ship out, and we'll show you a few more tricks of the trade. Okay, let's get started then. I've got just 2 discs of bread on the hook, 6mm discs. I'm going to put just 3 pieces of corn and 3 pellets into the pot. We're going to ship out, and basically I'm going to sit there and see what happens. I'm not going to keep feeding or anything like that just for now because I really don't know what's going to happen today. Obviously it's been fishing a little bit hard of late because of the frosts and all the rain we've had, but let's get this out there. We'll give it a few minutes, see what happens before we even think about putting any more bait in. Okay, about there we go. Put your rig in, and in case you're wondering why I'm using the pole rest, if you're a regular viewer you'll know I've got arthritis in this thumb and it hurts like hell to hold the pole properly, so I've resorted to using the pole support and the rear strap, but it keeps your hands free, means you can have a good cup of coffee while you're waiting, and that's what we're going to do now. Go for it. If you're looking at the float on the zoomed in camcorder view down there, it'll look like that float's sticking out quite a lot, and in actual fact from where I'm sitting here it's literally just a tiny little amount above the surface. Now this wind's getting up as well, but it's probably only 2 or 3 millimeters above the surface. And to be honest, I'd probably be better off watching the thing on my phone than trying to view it in real life, because for me, that's dotted down. Normally I have a bit more sticking out because the aged body isn't what it was, but you know, it's got to be the case because you're fining everything down. It's also all about finesse in the winter when it's cold. As you've already seen, we're scaling down on lines, particularly hook lengths. Size of hook, I mean, I might have even gone to an 18 today because I'm not expecting anything too massive, and even if I did catch one of the bigger fish in this pond, well, you know, it should be okay. Thought I had a bit of a bite there, sorry. Haven't had a bite yet, by the way, we're only about 10 minutes in. Well, that was the tiniest bite ever. Wasn't even sure it was a bite, but hey, we've got a fish on, and it's probably 15 minutes up. We had a fish on. I suspect that was foul hooked actually, because although it looked like there may have been some kind of a bite there, to be honest, I wasn't sure, and I suspect I've hit into its body, and it didn't take off like a normal hooked fish. Anyway, there's fish down there, that's a good thing. Let's get back in and see if we can actually produce some fish for you. Just put a little tiny bit of bait in, just 3 pellets, and we'll get back out there. The wind's actually getting up now, and it's causing me a little bit of a problem with the undertow, pulling the float down even further, so I may just have to take a shot off, or reduce the size of one of the shots just to get to a point where I can see what I'm doing. But we'll persevere just for now, because I did see that bite, so therefore it can't be all bad. But the wind really is starting to get up, and it's right in my face, which is not the best. Okay, let's see what happens next. There we go. Well, that's not bad, is it? I have to admit, I've got the float dotted down that low that I did wonder if it was the undertow pulling it under rather, so I may just raise the float just a fraction higher. Just take a little bit of shot off. Right. Pulling back quite well for the winter though. It's gone off to my right and stayed there. He's actually down the edge now. Alright. Oh yeah. He'll do. He'll definitely do. It's actually snagged around the back of his dorsal fin again. It's in the mouth, but behind the dorsal they've got that serrated, no, it's come off. They've got that serrated dorsal fin here. Well, that's not bad. Only been fishing for what, 15 minutes or so? I fed 3 more pellets I think, and that's it. See if we can show them to you. Whoops. There we go, look. About £3. Can't be bad, can it? Okay, I've just lightened that shot off and put some more bread on, and I am going to feed another 3 pieces of corn. If there were 2 fish down there, we need to keep something in there. There's 3 pieces of corn, I'm going to fill them up, but if I keep them going in fairly regularly now, it should do what I want it to do. This wind's all over the place today. It's strong and then it slackens off a bit and then it's stronger again, slackens off a bit again. It's just something you have to put up with, of course. Right, see if that sits any higher. Well, couldn't ask for more than this, could you? Looks like it's a little bit better. I can see a fraction more of the float now. That undertow was just enough to just pull that sort of extra millimetre or so down, and it was causing me issues. Well, that certainly took off, didn't it? I actually just changed to a pellet on the hook, and that bite was all but immediate. Just take your time with it. As I say, it's winter. Every fish is precious at this point, especially if you're fishing a match. Okay. None of the fish in here are really big, but they're such good fun. They wake up at the net, these things, even in the winter. Alright, come on. See what I mean? Oh dear. He's probably 2 pounds, I suppose. They're lovely fish though. There we go. Number 2. So with each put in, I'm just going to feed 3 pellets for the moment. They seem to be feeding well on pellets, so I'm going with that. I find in the winter here that pellets and bread tend to work better than corn, but you've got to try corn because some days they just decide to be contrary and they like corn. But for the moment we'll continue on just doing what we're doing. Just keeping the feed in a very tight area, as you see, probably a foot square, 30 centimetres square, and just picking off 1 fish at a time, and hopefully this will continue. That's 2 fish I've caught, and that one that I foul hooked, the very first one. So we are not even an hour in yet, so that's not bad at all. Ooh, I missed it. At least in the summer when you've got lots of floats sticking out, you can really tell. I mean, that went under quite well, but I've only got a small amount of float sticking out. What I might do is, you might remember I've talked a few times about a telltale shot, and that's having a number 8 shot just about 2 inches, 5 centimetres away from the hook. It's suspended just off the bottom, hooked on the bottom, and then when a fish takes the bait, it lifts that shot, and that makes the float lift from there to there. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do. Excuse me, the bites are, well, some of them are pretty good, but some of them can be finicky in the winter, so I'm going to take one of these number 8s off and I'm going to put a number 8 on as a telltale. Okay, that's the telltale shot just here, and I've got a pellet on, and as you see, it's pretty much 5 centimetres, 2 inches anyway, in older money, away from the hook. So let's see what that does. And again, I'll just put 3 pellets in there and ship out. Okay, let's hope that's the start of something starting to happen. Have a few fish. Well, even if we don't, it's not the end of the world, is it? I mean, beautiful day. Bit chilly, but still beautiful. Well, that was a nice bite too. He's gone out into the middle. He's actually on the surface there, look. And normally, as you know, I'd be fishing with strong elastics and heavy line, at least a 14 hook, quite often a 12, sometimes even a 10. But you really do need to fine it down a bit for the winter, because the water's very clear and they can see a lot better than they can when it's all muddy in the summer. So this so far is working quite well. Oh, behind his dorsal again. It's free again. Got a certain amount to go about them still. I'm just going to take my time, not going to stab at it. And there we go, and that's 3. And we're still not even an hour in. So, fingers crossed, eh? Same sort of size as the first one, just about £3. Just so you know, the pellets I'm using, this is pellets. This is Den's homemade pellets. And what I do, they're actually the turmeric, exactly the same ones as the ones I normally use, which I just put turmeric on. These are the chicken layer pellet ones. But I basically make up a concoction which I can put on the hook. And I can make it as thick or as thin as I want to. And that's what's doing the damage today. Get a few more of the normal ones in. And this time I'll just put a couple of bits of corn in, just to see if that's what they like a bit later on. You never know. Sometimes they just ignore one bait and take the other. You just have to work out on the day which one they're going for. Some days, of course, they'll just take anything. Wind's quite strong in my face now. That one shot under. And the other thing is, try and keep them out of where you're feeding. It doesn't always work. Sometimes they like to go back in there, but if you can keep them out of there, it stops spooking the others a little bit, and it all helps. He's fighting well. These pellets seem to work out quite well. I was just trying actually for the first time today. I only made them yesterday. So what I'll do is a bit more trial and error, and I'll maybe show you how to make them if that's of any use to you. Certainly think I'll keep using them. They stay on better than bread, and they don't melt like bread does eventually. Then again, of course, sometimes you want bread to fluff up, so swings and roundabouts. What's that for? Again, about £3, same old average. Just feeding the same 3 pellets all the time. Got my bait caught in my welly, but that's all I'm doing, guys, keeping it tight and just keeping the feed going in very lightly. The idea is that there's enough feed in there to bring them in, keep them interested, but not to overfeed them. If I was to put a large pot full in there at this point in time, I could quite easily see that everything would just die off. But for the moment, we seem to be doing perfectly well. Yay! I thought that was a bite. I was actually in 2 minds at one point there, because I wasn't sure if it was undertow that was dragging it under or what, and then it actually was a proper bite in the end, so that was quite good. Even in the winter they can still do that. You don't get the explosive fight like you do in the summer, but they still manage to have a good old go. That one's maybe a little bit bigger, maybe 3.5 pounds, maybe going on 4, I suppose. Yeah, not a bad fish. Blew it. Got myself tangled around the end of my pole and everything. Oh well. Well look, I'm going to need to untangle this now, but hopefully I've had a few fish, you get the idea. If you combine very light feeding with lighter tackle, smaller hooks, but balanced tackle still, then you've got a good chance of having a few fish. And once I've got this untangled, I'm hoping that's what I'm going to do too. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned a few things, and if you did, as always, click the like button. If you want to subscribe, you can do that too. And until the next time, bye for now.